let's looking at the bans real quick. It looks like, hold on, just getting them in now. Pandemic Horde have banned the Navy Geddon and the Orthrus, while Post Pod Clarity have banned the Curse and the Loki. So Loki finally banned on this one. Wait, now, what do you make about these bans?
The Loki's a
Quickishly.
solid ban for removing a lot of like Mimitar Rush as well as the Caldari Nighthawk Rush. The Curse ban is an old school one, but I don't see why you would ban Horde from that. Get Navy, solid ban. Orthrus, solid bans. They're pretty much self-explanatory from what we said before. There's a good set of bans here. I'm curious what teams are going to bring.
Very nice. I wish we could predict it as well. It looks like Twitch chat are making a prediction. A pretty bold one, actually. Pandemic
Betting on a
Horde.
Nubro Corp. Oh my god, what does the world come to?
Pandemic Horde are in a commanding lead. I think people are going to start honking for their channel points as soon as they get there. But we've got a really exciting match coming up. Both these teams can make it into the Alliance tournament. They're playing, to get in and also to get some very cool skins. But we're going to pass it over to the commentators to get to the match directly and break down what we're about to see.
Welcome back to the arena. I'm Nova Terran, joined here by the one and only Fear Vina, bringing you this match between Pandemic Horde and Postpod Clarity. You might have seen that we saw two matches from these two teams playing against each other last weekend already. This is the third one of those. That's because we only had two teams in this group, one team having dropped out of the tournament in advance of it. So we're going to see if the third time's the charm here for Postpod Clarity. What are we seeing from these two teams?
Well, Horde have brought Missile Kite, and Postpod Clarity have brought Medium Gun Spam, Pseudo Dad, or Max Threat, whatever you want to call it. Either way, both these teams are going to want to kite. Both these teams are going to want to use their low end to control the other team's high end. Although, as I say that, it looks like Postpod Clarity haven't brought any sort of damps or tracking or missile guidance disruption. Well, there is a Mollis from Pandemic Horde, and that is being primaried right now by the PPC squad.
Yeah, Mollis immediately putting damps onto the top end from Postpod Clarity. It's often hard for these kite comps to be able to do too much against a Octodad setup like from Postpod Clarity. That being said, Postpod Clarity's Vigil does go down. They're trading off for the Mollis on the low end here. It's just oftentimes the case that these medium guns are able to track really well. There's a lot of Sig Bloom, especially from these shield ships from the Pandemic Horde side. That being said, Horde are trading pretty well at the current moment.
Yeah, Mollis for Vigil right now, so the Mollis is worth a little bit more, 1 point exactly. They're trying to work on this Hyena, take the paints off of the Pandemic Horde side, but their paints are down, so it makes it a little bit harder to kill this low end from Pandemic Horde. And importantly, Horde still has a carry, so they're still damping out the Sab Solution, Navy Prophecy, and Navy Brutix.
Yeah, Carrie's making it absolutely miserable for the Postpod Clarity team trying to apply damage into Horde as they're simply unable to lock at range. As long as they're able to continue to kite, they're going to prevent so much of the damage from the Postpod Clarity side. Postpod Clarity, though, their attack bar is still pretty solid, a little higher than Horde's even. Some damage now going onto the Jackdaw and Hyena, who have dropped into Hull. Jackdaw dies on Horde's side. Horde now are shooting the Navy Omen of Fenrir Chainbreaker from Postpod Clarity, but PPC, they're taking a good advantage to start with.
Yeah, they just haven't had enough damage application after losing their Hyena to actually kill any of Postpod Clarity's medium-sized ships of the armor variety. Even without the paints, though, Postpod Clarity is getting better application out of their medium guns. They're taking down this Tengu as well, and they're starting to run away with this match. They have not lost any of their high ends. They've only lost their paints. And at the moment, they're onto the Scimitar now. Nice Nicholas. Very low shield at the moment. Doesn't even look like he's going to be able to get an XLASB charge off. And with that Postpod Clarity, we'll be able to take at least one match away from Horde in this feeder round. We will see them in the Redemption Port, as is a given for the two-team group.
Yeah, Horde's comp here really reliant on both electronic warfare effects from the carries, but also from this Tengu. I believe was an ECM fit Tengu, or Jamgu, as people often refer to it as. There were some jams trying to go off into the Deacons at some point. The carries maintained good damps on the top end of Postpod Clarity for most of the start of this, but they just simply weren't able to do enough. Post-Bug Clarity were applying very well, took things bottom to top for the most part. Yeah, now with the Scimitar Tengu having fallen, there's not too much left from Pandemic Horde. They're still trying to put some damage now onto this Vigilant, but he's catching reps from the pair of Deacons. No Logi left on the side of Horde, so they won't be able to do the same.
Yeah, and it's pretty important to remember, right? Shield ship should have the advantage in a kite v kite matchup in terms of raw speed, especially if there's nothing to force the shield ships into a closer range for the armor ships. But as we saw here, there was a little bit of better piloting around the arena from post-pod clarity. They were able to keep their guns in range, even with the damps from the Mollusk, which died very quickly, and of course that carries. And as such, they were able to apply it to the Horde ships. And once the paints were down from both these teams, heavy missiles apply worse to armor medium-sized ships than medium guns do at range, because the radial velocity is much lower and they don't have to worry about missile application effects.
Godoful and Chosen One now are just trying to show off their piloting skill on these pair of Fleet Cyclones, the top end from Pandemic Horde. Godoful does die, and it's just Chosen One left now. He's still managing to kite around very well, but these medium guns are not going to struggle to apply to him whatsoever. Looks like a lot of the small end racing to catch up with him now. I think they're not even going to manage to. He's just going to kite around until the medium guns take him down.
Yeah, and with that, remember, Horde still in to the Alliance tournament. Post-Pod Clarity still into the redemption bracket, but it's nice for them to take a match before tomorrow. With that, we're going to send it back to the desk after a break. We'll be right back after this.